Now, I guess my question is, as we continue to develop all these tools are meant for, including Dually and other ones, they're meant for enablement. So they're meant to basically make things easier for sales reps, and each tool is making things easier. And the sales reps' responsibilities and KPIs and what they're accountable for is ever increasing. Now, this is partly due to technology, but also automation and other types of enablement tools that allow sales reps to basically increase their personal effectiveness. And I guess the question is, what does the future of sales? What does the future of work? What do all these things look like when we're continuously giving new technologies to increase the performance of these individuals, noting that they're still only human at the end of the day. So is there a limit to how effective we can make people? Is there a limit psychologically to how effective we can make people? When is the cutoff point where we can no longer increase the effectiveness or the efficacy of an individual with a tool?
Yeah, I think so. Like every single product that you bring on board will purport that it's going to improve your performance by
Yeah.
10%, right? So theoretically, at some point in time, you're exceeding the limits of what's possible. This one's better. This one makes me 10% better. This one shaves off 10% of my time. So if you have, you buy 20 products that each shave 10% of your time off, theoretically, you're going back in time.
Yeah.
Uh, that's obviously not the case. So I think that what you're going to see in the future of work, and I'll talk more about the future work because I think future work is actually a really interesting thing right now. Like
Hmm.
Bloomberg talks about it all the time, and a number of other major media companies are really engaged in this whole concept of the future of work. Future of work is letting people do the job that you told them that they were signing up for, right? So if you look at the definition of a salesperson and you said, okay, what does a salesperson do at its core? If you were to sum it up in 5 words or less, you would say a salesperson sells stuff, right? More or less. Now, that's not what a salesperson does. A salesperson forecasts. A salesperson does expense reports. A salesperson has one-on-ones with their manager. A salesperson takes notes in meetings. A salesperson updates the CRM and does all of this other stuff. But you don't talk about that, right? So the reality is, I think that the future of work is that the definition of your job at its simplest level is what you're actually going to be doing, and all of the technology that you surround the seller with or the worker with are going to solve the problems of the things that you didn't tell them were in their job description, right?
That's an interesting way of thinking, but it makes a lot of sense because
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I maybe it's oversimplified, but I think that the reality is, again, I'll go back to that initial example. When I signed Major League Baseball or in the NHL, nobody came up to me and said, "High five, Kris, really good job on signing those deals. Did you update the competitive field in Salesforce? Did you file your expenses for that trip?" Nobody said that, right? It's assumed that you're going to do those things, but as a seller, it's assumed that because my paycheck is so predicated on my performance, that I'm not going to do those things, right? Like I'm really not. 50% of a salesperson's paycheck, 50% plus actually, if you're a good seller, is based on your performance. It's an open-ended paying role, right? You can make as much money as humanly possible within that job, unless you have a capped commission plan, which I think are terrible. Um, so if that's the case, you're hiring somebody that you know is under the pump to perform. No other role in the business, engineering, HR, nobody else has quotas that if they miss them, their paycheck gets cut in half. You might miss your bonus, but your bonus is probably not going to cut your pay in half. It's probably incremental. That's why it's called a bonus, right? Commission is not a bonus. It is your pay. Uh, so when you're thinking along the lines of that, you have to really be empathetic to the needs of that person. The future of work is the ability for us to deliver on the promises of what your job is supposed to be, and getting rid of like all the block and tackle crap that get people all tied up in their daily chores and activities. So that's why, like, you look at all of the revolutions that are happening around the world, it's all about trying to improve the perception of a specific thing that's happening, right? Perception of women, the perception
Yeah.
of Black people, the perception of this, perception of that, even in your perception of work. And I don't want to compare the two because they're not even close to the same thing. In the perception of your job, you never signed up for all the other crap.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we want to get to a point where we give them an empathetic solution. And if you don't provide them with an empathetic solution, they will find it, and it might not be at your company.
That's a very good takeaway for for anyone listening, and I think that that's why we see such high turnover rates. Um,
25% in sales.
yeah.
Some of it's, unregretted. Some of it's because somebody doesn't have a passion. I crushed my number at an antivirus company one year, sort of between Vision Critical and my last entrepreneurial role, where I figured I wanted to get into SaaS. I hated my job, and I left because I hated selling antivirus software. Some people would be like, "Security software, sign me up. This is really cool." I was like, "Screw that." Again, got to kind of align with passion too. So 25% of people churn year over year, unregretted, regretted, misfit.
Now, just to tee it up, I want to first of all, I just want to ask: is there anything outside of what we talked about in your journey in your life before Dooley or at Dooley that we didn't cover? Because if we're teed up for that, then I want to ask sort of closing questions, just lessons learned from your career. But just the floor for you to before we go any
Yeah,
further.
I would say the only other thing, like there is one lesson that I really try to bring into my job, which I learned as a baseball coach. And look, sure, there's tons of stuff that we don't know, but let's talk about this one specifically. I remember I had this kid on my baseball team a few years ago, and I had just gone through this coaching program to learn how to be a better coach. I still think I'm an okay coach. I don't think I'm a great coach. I'm certainly not going to coach at the major league level anytime soon. Um, but this kid was so self-aware that it was like wild to experience this. I was trying to teach him how to do his swing, and I was teaching him wrong. And this kind of goes into the whole idea of enablement, right? And he paused and he goes, "Coach, I don't learn the way you're teaching me. I'm a hands-on learner. I need to have the bat in my hand in order to learn. You're trying to teach me like a visual learning." So there's actually three types of learners. There's people who are tactile, people that learn through hearing, and then people who learn through seeing. And he was very much a tactile learner. And so I'm like, okay, holy crap, I didn't even realize that I was making a mistake. Here's the bat. All right, let's break it down into smaller bits. Let's put you into your backswing. Okay, elbow in the right position, hands in the right position, hands up by the ear, all that kind of stuff. Now you need to go to here. Now you need to go to here. Now you need to go to here. And as soon as we did that, he like his game changed. He was a kid who couldn't swing a baseball bat, who went on to be there's an award that he was nominated for at the end of the year for like basically most improved player, the kid who gave his heart and soul into the game. And it was like this moment of great pride for me. But again, I think what I learned from that is the way that you learn isn't the way that everybody else learns. So you need to be really sensitive to that when you're delivering training or material to other people. And we think about that again from an empathetic perspective. We think about that inside of our product, like how and when is it appropriate to educate you.
That is a very good lesson, and I think that when you are looking to coach or train or even build a product, like that has to be something that has to be taken into consideration as well.
Mm.
And I don't think enough people do. The whole It's a whole other conversation, not just on building the best possible user experience for a product, but the way to coach people is a whole other conversation that I have a lot of issues with when it comes to sales. I feel that not a lot of people coach sales individuals properly either.
Mm.
But a lot of it is, again, because of, we touched on this at one point, it was just the person who usually defaults into like a leadership position and doesn't know the best way to coach or train or
Yep.
onboard, and then you get that rocky period in that person's onboarding. A lot of it is because it's usually just the best person in that role that
Yep.
moves into the next role, right? And that's not a
There's,
good fix either.
there's probably one other thing that is interesting as an entrepreneur and somebody who likes to be hands-on and whatnot. You need to have a bit more patience than I think most entrepreneurs do with the people who are learning that don't know it as well as you do.
Mhm.
Uh, I see even with the way I work with my kids, it's like, I could let you cut that onion, but this is my lesson from last night. I can let you cut that onion, but I'm going to do it way faster and way easier. So I'm just going to do it. And my kid's like, but I want to learn. It's like, okay, so the art of letting go is I think important, and realizing that despite the fact that you probably are better at it out of the gate, you can let people get better than you at it if you give them enough opportunity. And you need to make sure that you are aware of that. And I would say that that's an ongoing lesson for me. The art of letting go is hard
Mhm.
when it's your baby, when it's your thing. When you know that there's an easier way of doing things, that's a tricky one.